Okay, and this is what's happening next. It's a bit of a showcase for the GOV.UK design system team, and it's kind of here by demand because we got a lot of flack for not putting on a showcase last year when we did Design System Day. So we wanted to keep everyone updated on what we are kind of up to. So these are members of our team. We have Chandel, who's an interaction designer on the Gov.UK design system team. She's an advocate for accessible design, as well as a strong believer in human-based design. We have Calvin on the end, who's a senior content designer on our team, and he's working to guide teams towards building more inclusive and accessible services. And we have Steve, who's a freelance person, product person, but is freelance person. He's just around everywhere doing stuff. But he's a freelance product person, and he's currently working with our team, and we're very grateful to have him. He's passionate about innovation for the public good and open, ethical product design. Phew. Got that right, yeah? Yeah. Got there in the end. Okay, so we're going to hand over to yourselves. You may want to take mics.
Would you like the microphones?
Or can we all stand around that?
Yeah, you can do if you want. Yeah. If you want to.
Hello. Can everyone hear me if I speak into the mic? Yeah. Fantastic.
Makes sense.
Thank you very much. Hello. As you've already heard, we are Steve, Chandel, and Calvin. I'm going to be honest. We haven't rehearsed this. We committed the cardinal sin. So if this goes half past, I'm very sorry, but we'll try and whip through so you can get to the break. But yeah, this is the team showcase. We're basically going to talk about what we've been up to for the past year. We've done this, you know who we are. What is the Gov.UK design system? Does anyone not know? Yes! Okay, so basically it's a set of components, patterns and guidance that can help you design and develop consistent, usable, accessible services for the Gov.UK ecosystem. How does it benefit teams? Well, much like you'll have heard how the Scottish design system works, it basically saves people time, money and effort and cognitive load. It allows teams to focus on local problems. So because we're looking at sort of use cases across all of the different public services, and we're making things generic and sort of versatile for all of the different services, that allows teams to focus on problems that are like very specific to their context. It's also a way that all of the digital professionals across government can learn the design standards for publishing something for the Gov.UK ecosystem, and it also helps people learn from each other. So if someone in the community solves a particular problem and they share that through the design system, everyone else can learn about that, which is quite nice. And then finally, it implements and protects the Gov.UK brand, which is like a big signal of trust. So this is what we're going to go through, a quick recap on what we've been up to for the past year. Then Chandel's going to talk about Exit This Page, which has been a big thing we've been working on for a while, but got released earlier. Then Calvin's going to go through the new accessibility guidelines and the work we've been doing towards that, which is coming out a bit later. Then we'll do a quick run through the roadmap of what's coming up later in the year, and then we'll talk through strategy at the end. So yeah, first of all, what have we been up to? I'm committing another cardinal sin of saying, look at all the commits we've done, which isn't how you measure progress or performance or anything. But yeah, if you use those as a loose indicator, you can see that it's been a really busy year. And we've had quite a lot of activity in the last 12 months since launching in 2018. The key thing to say is that that's all code, so it doesn't show the research, design and decision work that happens underneath. And the team have done a fabulous job, so can you all just give them a big round of applause? Thank you very much. So yeah, what have we been working on? So the main news, as I said, is that we launched Exit This Page, and that's a component that helps people exit a page quickly when they're in a vulnerable situation. We also added the pagination component and made changes to how the accordion behaves, and we made some minor changes to the select component and released a variant of summary card. There's been some co-design projects going on as well. This is something new that we've been trying. So running co-design projects with the community. Maps in Services has had quite a lot lot of activity, and we'll be able to pick that up again soon. And the new task list is almost ready, along with guidance on how you can use it to break down long transactions into tasks. There's more on that tomorrow if you're joining us for day 2, so keep an eye out for that. Done a bunch of guidance updates as well, because not everything we do is like code. So we've got a whole section on using images to give information. And there was also like a really nice bit of sort of looking at how users are interacting with components and then making changes based on that. So a team at the Department for Education noticed that people were trying to type month names into the date input, and it only used to accept numbers. So a change was made so that it will actually accept month names, which is fantastic. Also made some recommendations about not using the max length attribute on text inputs as well. And then last week, very recently, we published a standardized format that makes it easier for teams to share research and evidence with us, which helps with sort of working out what we need to iterate with different components and patterns. Also been making big changes to the coding conventions. So all of this happens on Gov.UK front end, which is like the code base that everyone uses to build services for Gov.UK. Not only have we added support for localization, which allows you to translate your front end into any language, we've also dropped support for Internet Explorer because Microsoft have decided to get rid of it finally. And that sort of opened up opportunities for us to revisit how we do JavaScript. So the front-end squad have been working on that, like putting in so many hours on it and actually doing quite a lot of complicated architecture work, which has been fantastic. And then, yeah, the other big one is accessibility. So a bit more on this later, but essentially we've reviewed all 65 elements in the design system catalog against WCAG 2.2. We've done some work to improve how we highlight accessibility guidance, and we've also done numerous community accessibility workshops, which brings me on to community. So yeah, that's all of you. Thanks for coming. There's been at least 795 new community members in the last year, which has been great, and there was a huge spike of that in June. We've had nearly 40 new contributors helping us iterate and improve the design system, and we've had to reassess like how to do community events. Some of the accessibility events we ran sold out within hours, so we just had to do like second runs of them, which has been fantastic to see the demand out there, and they're really good to run. So yeah, thank you for enjoying them. But yeah, there's over 150 of you here today, which is fantastic. Thank you all for coming. We've got 1,000 people joining the online event tomorrow, so very much looking forward to that. So yeah. Big thank you to everyone for coming today. It really is an honour to work on this thing. I don't know how you two feel, but it is fantastic. Those slides were pretty boring, though. You probably don't want to just see like more text. So you want us to show you the money. So I'll show you what pagination looks like. So this is the sort of thing that you might put in like an application UI, like maybe if you're trying to scroll through a bunch of cases in a case management system, and it just helps users navigate forwards and backwards through pages. Summary card, so that's that variant I mentioned earlier, and this allows you to show multiple summary lists on one page. I think it's used quite heavily in the Department for Education, so there's quite a few examples of how they have used it. Task list, this is the new one I was talking about, which is why you can see that. And I really want to use the laser pointer, so I'm going to do it. That's why you can see the preview bit there, because it's new. And yeah, so this is essentially for when you've got a really long transaction that might take someone, an hour or two to fill in, or there's information they've got to collect, so like go away and bring something back. Task list is a way that sort of breaks that down and just lays out to people everything that they're going to have to do. It can be used in like combination with a start page. I think it's quite nice. Images and services. So this is the guidance that shows you how to use an image as a visual aid to give information. There's lots of stuff in there. And then this is that standardized format for sharing research findings. Please do go and use it and let us know what you think, because we'd like to iterate it if it's not working. Finally, localization. So yeah, this allows you to translate components and pass non-English text through. Huge amount of work doing that, but it's fantastic to be able to fully support all different languages. Right, Chandel, it's your turn. Do you want the clicker?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Sorry.
Swap. Okay, so exit this page has been implemented by the child maintenance service, and we're asking teams to tell us whether they're implementing either the component or pattern, as well as joining with the discussion on GitHub, because this helps us to iterate the component for the community. So exit this page, if you're not aware, is a little button on a page that helps people quickly exit a service. It was done as a way of getting people out of that service really quickly, and its most common use is for people in a situation where they're about to experience domestic violence. And we couldn't have done this work without our contributors, and we're really thankful for their hard work. So we had really significant input from Rob King, Hannah Jump, and Ansari Raju. We also worked with people who had lived experience of domestic abuse and people with accessibility needs, and that was really hard work. Like, those people sitting in on those interviews, it was heartbreaking, but they took the time to come and speak to us, and honestly, it was amazing. During this project, we also worked in consultation with the Ministry of Justice, the Department of Work and Pensions, and Scottish Government, who you've already heard from. Almost the entire team that ended up shipping this project were new, which is kind of funny, really. So we had, I'm going to ask if they're in the room for them to stand up, because I like to embarrass people a little bit like that. So we've got Beeps, who's at the very back of the room. Give a wave. Calvin. Charlotte, who may not be in the room. Right at the back. Charlotte. Chris. Charlotte's not new. Chris isn't new. Myself. David. Imran. Katrina. Kelly. Owen and Steve. As I said, the majority of people on the team who worked on this project were either new to government or new to the team. We also had a group of experts who came and spoke to us, helping us to actually move this project along, including the initial contributor, Rob King, who we couldn't have done this work without. So I'm going to pass this. This is the service. I don't know how to get it to play.
If you click the green button, it should work again. I mean, it should work. Yeah.
So this is a video of it. That simple button took a culmination of 5 years of work. It sounds ridiculous, but 5 years of work. It took for people on our team, it took almost 18 months to get that shipped, because we had to go away and we had to think about the ways in which you can make that work. We had to think about things about, can we actually say, exit this page? Does that make sense to users? When we did the research with users, originally it was called hide this page. Does that make sense with users? It didn't make sense with users, so we went and iterated it. There was so much work that went into that. It was really, really amazing, and we're really grateful. And as I said, we did a lot of work, but we could not have done this without the community, so we're really grateful. We also realised that it needed to be more than just a component, because it was fantastic as a component, but it needed to be a pattern as well. So we did some extra work. We created what we have affectionately nicknamed a ghost page, which is why we've got a little ghost emoji there, and that's a loading overlay, and that's designed so that if you've got a slow connection, it will just give you a blank page, and that's designed so that if you're in a dangerous situation, you can click that button and it will not freeze on the page that you're on. As I said before, doing the research with the people who had lived experience was one of the most humbling experiences I'd ever had. I only sat in on one interview. Our user researcher sat in and did, I believe it was 8 interviews. It was truly amazing. And they went to the place to go and find the interviews by themselves and did this all in person. It was truly, truly amazing. I think many of the people on the team were in awe of these people who are willing to help us despite it being a very difficult subject to deal with. And we're really fortunate to have gained their insight. We are also aware that it's not a perfect component or pattern. There were certain things that we could never fix. So we found that we could never, despite our best efforts, find a way to activate the voice trigger. This is simply because you can't make it both accessible and safe, which is something that we unfortunately had to learn to live with. We are looking at ways to iterate it, and we are asking people to come back and give us any findings or research. So if you do go onto the Exit This page, component or pattern, there is a link to the GitHub discussion issue. Please share any findings that you have on there. I'm going to pass over to Kelvin.
Okay, hello. I'm going to talk about the design system team's work to get ready for the new version of WCAG 2.2 and how we're helping services do the same as well. And so our main aim of this work is just not only to update the design system to comply with the new standards, but also reduce the effort that it'll take for teams to make their services comply with WCAG 2.2. There's going to be a few acronyms that I'll need to go through. The first one here is WCAG, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Right now, public sector services need to comply with to a AA standard, I believe, of the 2.1 version, and there's a new version, 2.2, that's coming into play right now. This work is in flux, it's in progress, and the dates have been in flux because we've been waiting for the final version of the guidelines to be published. But as a timeline, as best I could when I made these slides, at the latter part of last year, so November 2022, we started by publishing an accessibility strategy. So this was led by our senior accessibility specialist, David, and this work helped guide us and the work that needed to come ahead. Just this Thursday, W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, under the Web Accessibility Initiative, published the latest version of these guidelines. So this was just this last Thursday, and there's a few kind of dates and goals within us and the Government Digital Service and the Central Data Digital Office that have aims for. But basically, in 1 year after the published date, CDDO expects to start monitoring for the new criteria. So that's basically Thursday was the start of services getting started on the work to comply with it before monitoring begins based on these updated criteria. For us on the design system team, our aims at the moment is 6 months after published. So I've put this at April, these are 2024, my mistake. By April, that we will release a version of Gov.UK front end with components that are compliant with the new version of WCAG to a AA standard. And then in August, we aim to release an updated Gov.UK design system website that is compliant with the new standards as well. So briefly, the new criteria, there's a handful of criteria, and the way CDDO, I've taken this from them to explain it, is includes improvements to make keyboard focus states more visible, avoid reliance on dragging movements, another criterion to ensure controls are sufficiently spaced out so users can interact with them no matter what device or method they're using, display help mechanisms consistently, let users authenticate without cognitive tests, and also avoid asking for repeated information so so a user shouldn't have to do something like give their address over and over again. This is the What's New in WCAG 2.2 page on the Web Accessibility Initiative website, and this outlines a new criteria, what to do, and why it's important. It's quite comprehensive, but it takes a lot of time to digest and evaluate, especially in the context of running a service. So that's what we're trying to help with. And of course, this means doing this ourselves at the same time and doing the hard work to make it simple. So right now we're working through an epic of epics on WCAG 2.2 work, from evaluating the criteria, assessing its impact on the design system's components and patterns, making changes to components and patterns to make them compliant, writing new guidance, and finally publishing this in a way that can help guide people and communicate it in as simple a way as possible. So this has been led by extensive work from our accessibility expert, who's been doing a ton of work to investigate impact, evaluate, desk research on this. This is one of the quite sizable spreadsheets that he's worked on. There are many of these, and it is like the bottom of a very big iceberg that we're working on top of, of his work that's been happening under the surface. In terms of the work I've been doing myself on the content, David's initial work informed content work to methodically make updates. So there are about 50 pieces of new guidance in existing components and patterns across 6 criteria in WCAG 2.2 that we've been working with. And this alone has been quite an extensive piece of work. And here's a few examples of what this guidance might look like. At the moment, we're looking at putting like a tag, a flag onto various bits of guidance on our components and patterns, so that a service looking to update their service to comply with WCAG 2.2 can go in there and kind of find that relevant content as quickly as possible, while not disrupting the usual other needs and journeys for folks that come onto our website. We've also started work to build a new component, a show password component, and this is to help with comply with the accessible authentication criteria. It's still in the exploration phase, so in terms of visuals, here's some examples that we've gathered to help investigate how this is being done in other parts of government and in the private sector, and evaluate them. We've also done work to look more broadly on how services rely on us to help on accessibility. So in August, we ran a design sprint to kind of test some of our assumptions that have been laying in the background on the team, draft new ideas and test them. And what this really helped us was to kind of see which ones were kind of like ideas and which ones could become things that we could actually do. So on the screen here is some of the sketches that we came up with during this design sprint. It was a very, very compressed time, fast-paced process, and quite enjoyable with the team. And here's an example of a user map that we created on Padlet to try to understand and try to fit in some of these ideas that we were working on. In the meantime, we've also organized a series of workshops to introduce service teams to WCAG 2.2, and I hope some of you have participated in those. So far, they've been a bit of a showcase to kind of focus on one new criteria each. And they've been well received. Typically, they bring about 250 participants, so we're really, really happy about those. And the other thing that's been really good about these events is we're learning more about what service teams and users and you expect from us and to help you comply with WCAG 2.2, what role we can play. So these are some results from like a light survey that we did, and for the most part, 27% expect some updates about what's happening with WCAG 2.2 and the plans for our specific components and patterns. 18% are relying on us to kind of give some more generalized information about what is the new criteria and what's new or different about it. 13% are relying on us are expecting us to help simplify WCAG. 11% are looking for specific patterns or guidance about that pertain to WCAG 2.2. And 9%, and I found this one was interesting in terms of content, is things to avoid and looking for do's and don'ts. So 9% of respondents were flagged this up with us. So it is a work in progress, and we really, really do want to hear from as many of you as possible to help guide what we need to do and how to do it, because it's a lot of information, it's a lot of work, and we want to be able to, achieve like our goal to help everyone comply as much as possible before the monitoring begins next year. Thank you.
Cool. There was a question about impact earlier, so I did some sums on this, and it's been quite amazing. So one of the ways that we create value through the design system is by reducing the amount of effort that's duplicated across government. And if you take the amount of time that we've spent on this, it's cost like just under £100,000. But when you think about how much effort that has saved across government, like the figures are like 60 million or something. It's huge. So it's a big part of what we do. It's fantastic. Anyway. You probably want to know what's coming up next. Well, the major thing to say is that in a few weeks' time, we will be releasing version 5 of Gov.UK front-end, which is that huge front-end architecture project that I mentioned. There's a few other bits and pieces in it, but the main things are that it removes support for Internet Explorer 8 through to 10, and we sort of reduce support for Internet Explorer 11, so it does remain there, but 8 to 10 are gone. Previously, we haven't had a clear JavaScript API for our components, so you could kind of like use it as much as you like. But we're doing some work to remove that in a nice way. So if you do try and use it in version 5, it will throw errors and you'll get problems. But you'll be able to use that to sort of talk to us, and we can figure out which bits you're using and which bits you're not. It also enables new link styles by default, and it removes support for compatibility mode. So that's like using Gov.UK toolkit and elements and the sort of the old frameworks. It's going to be published as a pre-release on NPM, and that should be ready towards the end of the month. We're really looking for people to help us test this. So if you're a developer or there's one on your team and you'll have like a week or so just to like run through this, please let us know. Like grab one of us in these t-shirts and we can let you know how to grab it. Also going to be releasing that WCAG 2.2 work, as I said. I'm not going to cover that because you already just heard it. We're making changes to the typography scale to make it more accessible, which basically means dropping 14 and making 16 the smallest size across all devices. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that's coming up on the roadmap. But where are we headed? I mean, after everyone's work over the last 5 or 6 years, I think it's fair to say that we're a fairly mature design system now. Some of the qualifiers of that are that we've got like most of the common use cases covered. The guidance is robust and easy to use, and if it's not, you can let us know and we'll make it better. Changes ripple out relatively quickly, which is quite good, and also we've got high adoption and it's hard to reverse changes, which is kind of a good problem to have, really. But you know, if everything is going so well, what do we really do here? Like, what's the point of having us around? I think the main thing to say is that we're not just here to build components and patterns, and the way that we make impact is through multiplier effects. So like the work on accessibility shows that. We're able to spend the time interpreting the new guidelines and baking that into the design system, which saves money across government and it saves effort across government. So yeah, people not having to do that work is one of the ways that we sort of create value in the world. And the work we're doing on JavaScript is another example of that, sort of, you know, doing these sorts of system level changes that everyone should be able to adopt. So what's next? Well, yeah, we're not going to step away from working on components and patterns entirely, but we will focus a little bit more on that system level work. That's the stuff that ties it all together and makes it feel whole and complete. Recently, we've been iterating the contribution model, and we're going to continue that work and look at how we can start transferring power to the community. So that's getting more folks in the community to sort of grow and iterate the design system and sort of make it more useful to more services. And we're also going to start setting foundations for the next generation of services. But why? Well, it's a big statement, but I kind of believe that transforming government to be user-centered isn't finished. Like, there's so much more we can all do. Like, everyone in this room, there's more we can do to improve outcomes across government. And, like, I don't know about you, but that's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's a pretty good one. So yeah, in order to help frame some of that, early next year we'll run a discovery to like figure out what you're all doing and find out how we can help, and that'll just help us skate to where the puck is going. Granted, it's not all a mystery. We've got some assumptions about what we need to do, but we want to come and validate those with you. So yeah, please look out for us asking to bother you about what we should do. Thank you very much.